So we've previously talked about finding fractional distance on a number line and how we want to find either 1/4 or 2/3 of a particular line segment. Here we're talking about partitioning, which is a little different. Partitioning is just another word for dividing. And what we're going to do is divide any given line segment into congruent parts. And remember, another word for congruent is equal. Okay. So the steps are listed here. First, before I partition on a line segment, first thing I need to do is I need to get the total length, and that's something we would do when trying to find fractional distance as well. We need to know the total length of the segment. And then from there, we need to look at how many pieces we want to divide this segment into, okay? And that total comes from the ratio itself. Now this is a ratio, looks like this, and we read that as 2:3, okay? So in this particular diagram, we are looking at a ratio such that point P partitions or divides line segment AB so that there are 2 equal parts before line P and 3 equal parts after point P. Okay, so if there's 2 parts on one side and 3 parts on the other, by adding them together, we know that there are a total of 5 equal pieces altogether. Okay, so we can determine how many congruent pieces we're partitioning this segment into by adding the ratio itself. So two parts to one side, 3 parts to the other gives me a total of 5 equal parts. And then from there, what we're going to do is then divide the number of parts we need to break the line segment into and divide that by the total length. So that way we ensure, and that what that does is it tells me the number of units that are in each congruent piece. Okay, so a lot of steps here, but let's go through one and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense. So our first example here, I want to find the coordinate of P such that the ratio of A to P and P to B is 1:2. Okay, so again, step number 1, count the length of AB. Okay, so from A to B, from -4 to +5, that's 9 units. Okay, so AB has a total length of 9. So then next, I'm like, okay, so then we need to go, after we find the total, we want to take a look, we have to go back to our ratio. We need to determine how many congruent pieces we want to break up this line segment into. Now somewhere, I'm going to put point P such that I have one segment from A to P, and then I have 2 segments from P to B. So that tells me I need a total of 3 congruent segments, or parts, or pieces, okay? So I'm going to divide AB into 3 congruent parts. Okay, so I have it diagrammed here in the green, but the question is, how did I know that each piece was 3 units long. And I got that by dividing the number of parts by the total length. That told me that there were 3 units in each congruent part. Okay, so then from here, once I've determined where my 3 parts are, then I can place P. I'm going to place P here because from A to P, I wanted 1 part, and P to B, I wanted 2 parts. So here's my first part, and then from here to here are my 2 other parts. So the answer for find the coordinate of point P that breaks up this segment into a ratio of 1 to 2 would be at -1. Okay, so let's try the next one. All right, so here, again, we want to find the coordinate of point T. So that way, I'm breaking up line segment DF, okay, such that wherever point T is, there are 2 congruent pieces to the left of point T, and there are 5 congruent pieces to the right of point T. Okay, so that tells me that I need 7. I'm breaking this up into 7 congruent parts or pieces. Okay, because I have 2 on one side of T and 5 on the other. So from -5 to 9, that tells me that DF has a length of 14. So if I take 14, my total length, and divide it by the number of congruent parts I need, that tells me that each congruent part will have 2 units. Okay, and I have it demonstrated here in the green at the bottom. See, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Every congruent piece is 2 units in length. That's how I get my 7 congruent parts. So now, remember point T, I wanted 2 pieces to the left of point T. So here's so T would go at the end of my 2 spots, my 2 congruent pieces. And then, so these are my 2, and over here is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. So there's my 2 to 5. So D to T has 2 pieces, T to F has 5 pieces. So again, it just so happens that in this example, my answer is also -1. -1 is where I would place point T such that I have this ratio of 2 to 5. So seems like a lot, but if you can remember your 4 steps, which are laid out here. Okay, so 1, find the total length. Then add your ratio together, because your ratio tells us how many congruent parts I'm breaking up this line segment into. Then from there, to be able to actually divide up the line segment into those 7 congruent pieces, I need to know how many units are going to be in each piece such that, so I have the correct number of congruent pieces. Okay, so and in this case, it was 14 our total units, our total length, divided by the number of parts I need, which is 7, tells me that there were 2 units in each congruent part, and that's represented by the green in my line. And then after you have determined where all your congruent parts are, you can place your coordinate or place your point T in the right spot based on how many units are to the left and right of that point. Okay, let's try this next one. Okay, so here we're looking to place the coordinate A so that RA to AV is 1 to 5. So that means I want 1 unit from R to A, and I want 5 units from A to V. So how many units, let me back that up, how many congruent parts is this line segment RV being broken into? All right, and if you said 6, that is correct, because I just add the ratio to get the total number of congruent pieces. Well, now I need to determine the total length. And -4 to 8 is a length of 12. Now I need to break up this line segment into 6 equal parts. So the next question is how many units will be in each equal part so that I have 6. To get that, I'm going to do 12 divided by 6, and that means each congruent part will be 2 units each. So 1, 2, that's 1. 1, 2 is 2. 1, 2 is 3. 2 more is 4. 2 more is 5, and our last one is 6. So there are my 6 congruent parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those are my 6 parts. So the last step is just to place point A at the end of my first congruent part, because we wanted 1 unit to the left of A, but we wanted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the right. So my answer would be -2. Okay, you guys try this one. All right, so hopefully you worked through this one on your own. And I have a total length of 15. And I need to place point M such that B to M is 3 units and M to X is 2 units. So that's a total of 5 congruent parts. Now, to determine how many units are in each part, so I can break this up evenly into 5 parts, I need each part to be 3 units long. So every 3 units is one congruent part. There we go. Those are my 5 congruent parts. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, we need to place point M such that there are 3 congruent parts from B to M. So at the end of my third congruent part, the letter M would go at +4 because I've got 3 pieces here and my 2 pieces here. If you still have questions or unsure of any of the steps I reviewed, please be sure to find me and ask questions.